Destination Medicine is a joint project of the regional training hubs. This podcast series brings you medical students' accounts of their experience in applying to study medicine. Welcome to Destination Medicine. I'm Peter Letts. Laura Sliskovic wanted to be an actress, but even more difficult than pursuing a medical degree is finding success as an actor. Along with this early clarity were factors that shaped Laura's journey into medicine. Key amongst them was her mother's breast cancer diagnosis and the challenges of trying to access healthcare from a remote area. Originally from the small rural town of Bicheno on Tasmania's east coast, Laura was inspired by supportive teachers, community members and local GPs to pursue her new goal with determination, which meant moving to Hobart at age 16 to continue her education at the University of Tasmania. What's as clear as day is Laura's deep appreciation of people and her commitment to rural health and community engagement. She studied at the Rural Clinical School in Burnie and completed placements in locations like King Island. She's also been active in student leadership, taking on roles like Vice President of the Tasmanian University Medical Students Society and Chair of Tasmania for the Australian Medical Students Association. Laura's goal is to work in global health and policy, with plans to contribute both on the ground and through advocacy. Laura starts by telling Nicole Goodman a bit more about herself and how she decided on medicine as a career.
I grew up in a small town called Bicheno on Tasmania's east coast. It's a beautiful little beachside town. The population fluctuates. It's about 800 people, a very small community. So I was taught by my mum for about 4 to 5 years because the school was such a small size. Initially, I was very uninterested in science, chemistry, anything that might lead someone to study medicine. But I was very interested in drama and acting. And I thought, I'll be an actress. That's what I'll do. And then I realised quite how hard it was going to be to become an actress. And I thought, maybe have a change of plans there. So I worked out I liked people from quite a young age. And I thought, what can I do being around people? And it wasn't until my high school teacher sparked this interest in chemistry within me. She taught chemistry in a way that I'd never been taught it before. She made it so engaging. And I thought, great, well, now there's finally something that combines chemistry and people. And for me, that was becoming a doctor.
Wow, that's literally from the theatre to the theatre.
Yeah.
So tell me about that transition, going from, wanting to be an actress and then deciding to become a doctor.
Sure. So I think one of my main interests in acting was actually not so much the acting itself, but it was being around people, working together to create that play, to create that performance. And you'd spend time with each other and you'd brainstorm ideas on how you could improve things. And so I think maybe some of those elements transition into studying medicine, but it wasn't until my year 10 year when my mum got diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, we were living quite rurally, and so there was one GP, but the rest of the time there wasn't really any regular medical support. So mum would travel each day to Launceston, which was the nearest city for us, and that would take us 7 hours return to get there and back via bus. So from that experience, I saw what it was like to need medical care in a rural setting. She was travelling each day. She was exhausted. We were so lucky to have a brilliant GP, Dr. Liz, in town at the time. So good, so supportive of all of us as mum's children. And we knew that we could trust Liz, and my mum felt very safe seeing her. But I think it highlighted for me a real need for the town, a need to have another doctor in the town. So I worked out that I liked chemistry, I liked people. Why not combine those and try and become the town's GP?
It's a beautiful combination of factors that brought you to that result. Were there any other professions that you considered within the health profession outside of being a doctor?
There were a couple. I think I was also interested in paramedicine. At the time that I was considering going in, we didn't have any paramedics in town, but we did have volunteer ambulance officers, and they were incredible. Their calmness and their capability was just such a privilege for all of us to have in town, to have that presence of volunteer ambulance officers. So that was something I was interested in, was studying paramedicine. I was also a bit interested in physiotherapy. I quite liked how the body moved and I really enjoyed sports science in college. I think for me, the one thing that really sold medicine to me was my experience with the rural doctors that I met that came through Bicheno, whereas I wasn't getting that same exposure to any paramedics or any physiotherapists because we didn't have either in town. So I think that's what pushed medicine over the line.
Did you tell anyone that you wanted to become a doctor?
I think I told everybody and anybody. I don't think I would have had to know them for more than 5 minutes for them to know I wanted to be a doctor. And I was very open about it, especially at school. We had the most supportive teachers, really supportive peers, but it wasn't often something that people pursued to become a doctor. So I wanted to make it very clear that that's what I wanted to do. And the second I did that, I had supports coming in all directions. My high school principal, he was extremely supportive. And even though I suppose maybe the party line would be to try and keep people in your local area, he sat down with me and he explored all my options for year 11 and 12 to see what would be the best option for me to continue on this pathway. So I think the beautiful thing is, like, when you aren't in a city and when you're growing up in a rural community, you get all these people, you have your whole village that have this vested interest in you becoming a doctor because they understand that maybe that means you'll come back to the community.
What about members of your family? Did they have experience within the medical field? Did they give you any advice?
So nobody in my family was medical. I knew very far and few doctors besides the ones that were in the town, but I think they were the people that supported me the most, and they also gave some of the best advice. I was quite hesitant to leave Bicheno. When you're from a small town, it can feel very daunting leaving. We didn't have traffic lights or anything like that, so even the idea of getting used to driving in a different place was quite nerve-wracking. And I remember talking to my grandfather, who moved from Croatia to Australia, and he originally came to Australia not knowing that's where he was going. He thought he was headed towards America. He spent a lot of time in migrant camps, and he said to me, "You've got to take these opportunities. If you don't like it, that's okay, but you won't know you don't like those opportunities until you've actually given them a go. You'll gain experience, you'll get connections, and you'll meet people who will help you get to where you want to be." So I think that was some of the best advice I got, and that was what really encouraged me to move to Hobart and further pursue medicine.
Very, very smart man. Did you have a mentor or someone that was giving you guidance regarding your career before you were accepted into medicine?
I think I found it really hard to find a mentor. I didn't really know where to look for someone that had been through this before. I didn't have anyone that I knew that was a few years ahead of me that had gone through this path. So I was a bit lost in that regard. I think I had lots of cheerleaders and lots of supporters, and they did a beautiful job in encouraging me. My science teacher, my principal, my employers at the local penguin tours where I worked as a guide, all really helped contribute to where I wanted to go. But there wasn't someone who had done this path before that I could follow. And it wasn't probably until I was in 4th year of medical school that I really found a mentor. And she was actually someone else who was on one of the podcasts, and that was Dr. Morgan Nisi.
Oh.
And yeah, she's an orthopedic surgery registrar in Burnie. And it was the first time I thought, wow, this is someone who I can look up to and go, you are doing what I want to do and you can help guide me. And that was the first time I'd really experienced what a mentor is, in a way. Yeah.
What about activities or things you became involved with that helped you get into medicine?
The biggest activity I probably did to get into medicine was move away from my home. Very daunting thing to do, but I moved to Hobart when I was 16 and I attended Hobart College, and so I found some public housing there. I started arranging Centrelink and I got all that down pat. So Centrelink was probably a very helpful activity to me. I tried to keep my connection to my community was a big thing. And I do think that helped me get into medicine because my emotional well-being was still supported. I stayed involved in like the local Christmas carols in my community, the volunteering in my community. And so that was really important to me. At college itself, that was probably a bit more difficult because I was trying to get involved in activities, but I just really didn't like being away from home. So any opportunity I wasn't at school, I was returning home to Bicheno. And it wasn't until maybe my second year away from home that I really settled in and started doing things like actively preparing myself for medicine.
When you decided to study medicine, what were your first steps? Did you map out a plan? What was your approach?
So I was in high school and I had absolutely no clue where to begin. So I went onto Google and I Googled just about everything I could. I tried to read blogs. I'm sure if TikTok had been a big thing back then, I would have gone on there and tried to find some inspiration. But instead, what I did was I worked out what I needed to be achieving at school. So in terms of what I wanted my grades to be, what I wanted to learn, but I didn't have a very set plan. I was of the belief that things would just work their way out and everything would kind of just maybe fall into place. Maybe that was naive, but in a way, I think because of the connections I'd established with people, it did a little bit. So the time that uni applications opened was when COVID was happening in the middle of 2020. And so I applied to paramedicine and pharmacy through the school's recommendation program, and I applied to UTAS for medicine. I only applied to UTAS for medicine because each state had a fee that you had to pay, and that wasn't something that was realistic to me at the time. And to be honest, because of that lack of mentor, I didn't really know what other universities to apply for. So I started researching the UCAT, which was the test you needed to do to get into medicine. And I think that is where it is really helpful to chat to someone that has done that process before, find out about it, find out what worked for them. I started studying with a friend who knew a little bit more about the UCAT testing than I did. And it was really good because there's huge financial barriers to that UCAT test. And because of my friend, I was able to share some of those costs with her and get a bit more support as we studied together.
How did you actually prepare then for the UCAT? And do you have any advice or tips for people that are also embarking on this momentous exam?
You have to treat it as kind of a challenge. You've got to practice and you've got to learn what they want you to do. It's really hard because there's resources that you can pay for that will help improve your score in this test. And there's also free resources that they provide. 100% the paid resources do help. They're really good for practicing and they've got heaps of questions. If you can afford to use them or if you can afford to share those resources as a group and do group studies, I would recommend doing it. Otherwise, you can Google YouTube videos and there's support there. There's support on the actual website itself. There's a few practice questions. The other thing that can be beneficial, I find, and it comes to most exams, but it does also apply for the UCAT, is try writing some questions yourself and making them up, because then you get a bit of an idea of what they're trying to test you on and the way they write questions when you practice writing them yourself. So that would be my advice. I also think I really want to make it clear to anyone out there that's about to undergo this process is to not let it get to you if you don't perform well one year. It doesn't mean that you won't be an excellent doctor. You can resit the test next year, but you will still be an excellent doctor. You've just got a few more hurdles in the way to get there.
If you didn't get into medicine, did you have a plan B?
Yeah, I absolutely adore travel. And so my plan was that if I didn't get into medicine, I would take the year off. I was going to go traveling, which maybe it's a good thing that I did get in because the borders were all still closed in 2021. But I was going to go explore. I wanted to volunteer at a hostel. I wanted to do some random jobs abroad, like work on a farm for a little while, maybe do some au pairing. So that was my plan, and then see where life took me.
So if you look back over your experience in applying for medicine, what are the key messages you would offer to anyone considering medicine?
I think be proud of who you are and make that show on your application. We need a vast, diverse population of medical students. We need a diverse population of doctors because we have a diverse population of patients. And I think if you can show on your application what makes you unique And I'm not saying in regard to your test scores, I'm not saying in regard to any extracurricular, but what makes you unique as a person? What experiences have you had in life that are going to mean when you go and you are treating patients that you bring those with you in your care? So I think that is really important to show who you are, but also within yourself to know who you are. And when you get a bit defeated by these applications, by the tedious processes, to remember that you can do it. If I can do it, you can get into medicine. You can be that doctor you want to be. Just be proud of your applications.
Let's talk about imposter syndrome. Certainly in medicine, when everyone is so high achieving, is that something you've experienced? And if you have, how have you dealt with it?
Absolutely, I've experienced imposter syndrome. I think it would be hard not to. I think the other compounding factor is imposter syndrome. So when you already feel like you don't belong somewhere and you might be a bit fraudulent being there, it doesn't help when you're a female, from my experience. I think we are always a little bit more critical of ourselves. And I think sometimes you do have influences around you that won't help shake off that idea that you don't belong somewhere. We sell ourselves short. And so I think the best things for me to I still have imposter syndrome. I don't think imposter syndrome will ever leave me. But the things that help me are those smiles when a patient smiles and thanks you for looking after them, and they tell you how much they appreciate your care. And you go, well, if this patient appreciates me, I must be doing the right thing. I'm doing something right. I think when you're around people that you feel similar to and that you feel like you belong, that helps mitigate it. And I was very lucky to have an excellent friend group through medical school, and we all really supported each other. And when I was with those people, I felt like that was where I belonged. And it was a sense of belonging that I haven't had anywhere else in my life with these people. So I think that helps mitigate it, finding the right group of people.
Laura, you studied at the Burnie Rural Clinical School campus. Has your clinical experience been different, do you think, to your previous metropolitan placements?
I loved studying at the Rural Clinical School campus. It was the most phenomenal place to learn, to grow as a healthcare professional, but also to grow as a person. You get the feeling when you're in a rural hospital that you're a needed member of that team, and they appreciate what you're bringing to that team. You feel valued, you have more hands-on opportunities, and you really build strong relationships with staff, with patients, and with your peers. I think I'm a very big community person, and having a community in the hospital was amazing for me. It meant when there was an opportunity that arose, so maybe inserting a line into someone's arm to deliver fluids or to draw bloods from, it meant that because all the people in the hospital knew you, they would come and find you and invite you to join in that learning opportunity, which I think is really special. I think metropolitan placements are great, but I think rural placements are magical.
Laura, I talk to so many people who talk about the differences, exactly as you've pointed out, but you've hit the nail on the head. What is it about medicine, do you think, that you could never prepare for before really getting in there?
There's two things that I don't think I could have prepared for. I've always loved connecting with people, but I didn't quite realize quite how passionately and how strongly I would feel the emotions that my patients and their families felt. I find it really difficult to leave of an afternoon after my shift's done without carrying that weight with me at home. I find myself lying in bed of an evening and I'm thinking about my patients and I'm going, oh, I hope they're doing okay. That must be really tough on that sister or that brother of that patient. And I knew I'd feel a little bit of it, but I didn't realize quite how much I would feel that and how quickly I would feel as if these people were my own family members. The other thing that I couldn't have prepared for was when I observed as a student senior doctors making decisions that I wouldn't have made and that I don't think other people would have made. And because you're the student, you're not really in the position to be contradicting those. We haven't had enough experience, and it's the consultant's decision. I think the best thing that I did was I learnt to reflect on those experiences and use them to shape what I wanted to do in the future. So I think it's not necessarily the wrong decision, but would you make another one yourself? And if so, take that time, write it down, reflect on that a bit. Yeah.
And if you think about your time studying in a rural environment, what has been your favourite thing about studying rurally?
My favourite thing about studying rurally are the people. I felt joy every single day studying rurally. I felt joy when I connected with the patients. I felt joy when I connected with the colleagues. But I also felt so much joy going into the rural clinical school where the admin staff felt like my sisters and my mum away from home. The doctors there felt like the best mentors someone could ask for. They really wanted what was best for you. And my peers, we had so much fun. We'd get up to so many adventures on the weekend. We'd get to explore these small little towns that I never would have otherwise. King Island was a real highlight. I went with another one of my peers and one of the interns, and we went to the bowls club, we went exploring, we went on the kayaks with some of the families that lived on King Island. We're at Palmy Night every week, and it really felt like that was our place in the community. And that was a really amazing opportunity to have as a student rurally.
The world is your oyster. Sounds incredible. Any final reflections, Laura?
One last thing, get involved in your student societies. Every medical school has a body of students that are working on advocacy, support, and creating fun opportunities. They're the ones that make medical school that bit easier, that bit more fun. I've been involved in my medical student society and the Australian Medical Student Society, and both were just incredible opportunities for connection, for friendship, and to really show your passion. So yeah, get involved.
Laura Sliskovic, fifth year medical student, University of Tasmania Rural Clinical School, Northwest Tasmania. This is Destination Medicine. Thanks for listening. Regional training hubs are supported by funding from the Australian Government under the Rural Health Multidisciplinary Training Program.